Hello and welcome to another video from the Fantasy Legion. I've got Sean with me.
Good to be
all
back,
right?
Nick. Yeah, really good. Very excited about this one because this is going to be highly interesting and very controversial.
It's controversial. It's probably going to upset a few people, but it's just.
I'd say.
At the end of the day, it's personal preference. So it's 5 fantasy studs that you won't draft or own on your team. So people that you're avoiding because we talk about value-based drafting. And these are 5. I think they go far too high that I don't like the price of. So
yeah, I got to kind of, before I say any of these, I've kind of got to put a little bit of something in this because otherwise it won't sound fair because this is going to be highly controversial. First of all, I'm not saying that these players aren't good. That's the first thing I'm not saying.
Well, they're not. They're all good. That's the point.
They're all very, very good. A lot of what I'm going to do, there's going to be some hunch and instinct here on what we see change. Because the thing is, right, this is the thing that somebody told me the other day that I really, really appreciated this. He said, what you do that's different is that you're not going on last year's data. Every year you reevaluate, you put the players in, and he said, I respect that because at no point are you just living on what happened the previous year. You are genuinely using...
You're backfitting stats, aren't you? I mean, okay, that can show you things that you think, well, that's quite surprising. I didn't realise that. I mean, it's good for that, but for seasons are always different. Things change, and it's finding the change which creates value that people haven't seen yet.
We're examples because we are bold. We are examples of good and bad. When you go really bold, it is bold. I mean, last year we said Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones were the guys that's huge. They were huge last year, second round targets. Yeah, we got things wrong, but they were bold predictions, and you're going to. But that's the point. Every year in the NFL, things that you don't think can happen. That's what's magical about it. So these predictions will definitely have people going, shut up. What are you talking about?
Well, you're going to upset people because these are all good players.
It's massive. So,
I mean, they're not all players. I like a lot of these players, but there are other people at their value, and that's what drafting is all about.
There are a lot of these.
Kick us off with one, Sean. Go kick us off.
Shall I start with really annoying the fantasy? No one will say this. Christian McCaffrey for this year. Too many touches the previous 2 years. Massively concerns me. Right? Massively concerns me. Number 1 pick in consensus in fantasy football. We all know why. That's brilliant. But what we're not shouting about is how many players have 2 years of 300 or more carries or touches and then go on for a 3rd year or 4th year. Now, maybe this guy is Morris Jones-Drew, right? Maybe he is that brilliant, right? And I've got to shut up. But after 2 years, right, you have to, obviously, he's not going to fall to number 2, is he? I mean, that's the reality, right?
No, he's number 1, yeah.
He's number 1 overall, right?
But can you not take him? How can you not take him at number 1?
Well, I'll be honest with you, right? So I'm doing myself in here because there's no doubt people hearing this are gonna definitely rip me off here.
Oh yeah, he's best player in fantasy. I don't want him.
Look, if I was number 1, I'd have to take him, right? But you'll notice I haven't got any shares of him this year anywhere at all. Nowhere.
I have, yeah.
And there's lots of reasons for that. And in redraft leagues, I've got to be honest, I would rather not be picking number 1 because I really don't want to have to pick him because my concern myself is I already know I've got reservations, yeah. And like I always say to you every year, I always think, and this is good actually in a way because that's what separates drafting. It's not because, there's a lot of great players in the first 5, 6 picks, a lot of good players you can touch. And obviously everybody will go, what? You didn't take Christian McCaffrey at number 1. What's going on?
Well, you probably would be
worried,
wouldn't you? And then you trade him. That's the thing.
I would, yeah. But I don't want, I really don't want the dilemma out. I just don't want the dilemma.
I want to see you have the dilemma.
I don't want to have to take him because I'm really worried about all those touches. And I don't like the way the team is in transition.
You're fearing the breakdown because he's highly used that he's do a break.
A lot of
sort of thing.
Yeah, a lot of usage, quarterback change, a lot of coaching kind of decisions that have started to change things a lot. And I'm not saying they're not going to reuse him the way they have. Why wouldn't they? But just the amount of touches worries me. Wow, it's really concerning. I
want my fantasy players to have a lot of touches.
You do, but it's all about, I just worry. I've got massive red flag worries, and I'll be the only person in the entire podcasting world who would dare to say they have reservations around Christian McCaffrey, but I do.
No, I get the injury breakdown thing when you have a lot of touches, but it's hard to pass up somebody that he's so. I mean, he's like fantasy gold, isn't he? I mean, you can't.
Yeah, but I mean, you
don't
want.
You don't want gold, though.
I don't want the dilemma. I don't want this dilemma.
Okay, well, it's interesting. I can't get your point, but you're not saying you wouldn't take him at one. You'd probably take him and you'd trade him, weren't you? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to not take him for obvious reasons, because the last thing I need to do is pass him up and everybody goes, "Oh, you idiot!" So it's really difficult.
I'll be at the front of that queue as always.
Yeah, so it's controversial, but it's how I feel. So I really genuinely I'm a very hard at the moment pass on him. I don't want him, and thankfully he is number one, so it's not difficult.
It's so massive for him, isn't it? I mean, because if he does get all those touches, if he does play a full season, you're talking, probably league winning.
Well, we all know what he's worth. I mean, he's worth at least 2 players. I mean, that's the big thing, and it gets more. It's a larger gap in redraft standard leagues. It's a big gap. If he does what he did last year or the year before, it's massive. But you are now, you're paying the number one price. So the good thing is with this pick, as much as it is highly controversial, it isn't that bad because you have to have the number one pick to get him. So it's not too bad either. There's a lot of chances you won't ever have that problem. So that's fine. I'm quite happy to not have the problem. So for me, I have big worries. And those instincts are often I really, when I have these instincts with players, I tend to follow it through because it's better. Don't pick a play you had reservation. The last thing I want to see for him, I don't want to see him get injured. I really don't. I think he's exceptional. But imagine you have these reservations like I've got, it's fair drafting, and you have him, and then week 1, first quarter, down he goes, ACL, as worst thing that could ever happen.
I think you disagree, because I think there's 15 players in that league that'll think it's the best thing that can happen for you. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they would. But if you have those instincts, if your instincts were telling you should, be careful, and you didn't, you'd really regret this. It would be a horrible, hard season.
Imagine if you didn't take him and then he blew up and got another.
That is the other issue. That's why I don't want the dilemma. So, but I'm just being honest. I'm really concerned.
Okay, well, my first player. I mean, it seems like insignificant now. And I was arguing with people on the forum really. But I want to sort of explain why. Carson Wentz. I just think he gets drafted too high. People say he was going to be MVP when he got his ACL. Maybe that's fair enough. I don't think he would have been personally, but
how can they possibly say
he's overrated? And I can't take him at that price.
How can they possibly say he would have been the MVP? What's the logic behind that? What did he have?
He was having a good year. The Super Bowl year, he's having a good year, wasn't he? But then, he barely played. I mean, there's two seasons he got injured. So that's one reason. That's one reason I don't want to own him, because I've got to pay a high price for him.
Could he have done what Nick Foles did in that final?
Well, we don't know. I mean, you can't say yes or no to that, can you?
But he didn't play in it, did he? Did he finish last year?
Yes, he did last year, but the year before he didn't either.
But he still got banged up a bit last year, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean... I was watching All or Nothing, and there's kind of a load of games he choked as well, which is another thing I don't like in my players. I mean, people say he didn't have any receivers, but, Well,
that's Philadelphia for you, isn't it? That's what they do.
Well, yeah, but are they bad receivers because he's not any good? But I don't know, even...
I get the reservation because I don't like him either. I'll be honest.
Don't get me wrong. I do think he's good. I just don't like the price you have to pay for him. I'd rather take someone later like a Daniel Jones or a Drew Lock or somebody like that.
You've still got to pay a very high premium for Wentz's service. It's not top 5. It's he's near enough the next guy off the ball.
I mean, he's 5 to 10 probably in QB.
Yeah,
he finished 10th last year. But you've got to remember, last year half the league's quarterbacks went down. That's no great shape.
No, it isn't. No.
People are saying I don't see any difference in value between him and Prescott. Well, maybe it's my bias, but I think Prescott's a lot more valuable than Wentz.
Yeah,
he threw 1,000 more yards than him last year, but...
No, I get your concerns, and I do agree with you on this one. I'm
not saying Wentz is bad. I'm just saying at that price, I don't want to own him, and I don't own him. And
well, I won't.
What it's all about.
You know, I won't have any shares in him unless he drops so low in a draft board. It's impossible to turn it down. But that's going to be a long way down a lot of these redraft leagues. So
being
can't
a
see it.
fan because he plays for the Eagles, I can't.
Yeah, well, that's
cheer when
hard.
he plays a touchdown. So it's another reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's number 2 on your list?
Well, it will come as no surprise. He's going to be on a lot of my list this year. Leonard Fournette. I'm penning him down for an absolute disastrous year. There are so many red flags, right? Yeah. Okay, he stayed healthy last year, and I am, but we didn't last year.
He's a good player, isn't he? You can't doubt when he's playing, he's good.
Yeah, when he's playing. The organisation don't want you. They've not offered you a 5-year contract. Your coach has come out and publicly humiliated it. You fainted during your training with a respectable coach. You're out of shape. You're all over the place. I'm not liking this at all. This guy, I'm afraid, I will pen down for an absolute bust for this season. So avoid like the plague, and he will be on my bold prediction
list. They've been trying to trade him for a while, haven't they?
I'm not going anywhere near him.
A partner to trade with. So.
You're paying a massive premium for this guy's services in a team that is clearly going away from you. I just don't see it.
You say they're clearly going away, but does the roster say that? I mean, who have they got? I mean, they got Raquel Armstead, but who could you see taking over? I mean, if he's
Raquel Armstead.
Yeah, but he might get more involved. He's not going to take over.
Raquel Armstead would be a player that I would target and have targeted in a lot of leagues. In the last video we looked at, I picked him up as a very late sleeper because if anything happens to Leonard Fournette, this is the legitimate guy that he's had. When he's played well. So he's the guy that could take over. And
yeah,
maybe,
I mean, obviously, if he
just
goes down.
maybe, just maybe.
If they traded Fournette, I mean, let's say, they haven't really got that depth there to be able to trade him, have they? Is it just like they're sort of trying to put a rocket up his backside, or what? Why are they?
Well, you're not offering him a 5th year. You're not offering him a 5th. It's easier to take him up on the 5th year deal than it is to let him go to free agency. You're getting rid of him. That's what you're doing. You're getting rid of him because there's no way you're going to go, I'll tell you what, you had a great year, Leonard. That was brilliant. Well done there. We didn't offer you the 5th year contract, but now we want to offer you a contract. How much is that going to be? It's going to be like 4 times the price of what you would have got in a 5th. It's never going to happen. So, no, they're going in a new direction.
They seem to have got rid of a lot of their big players, or their big money players as well. It's like they're sort of a bit...
Wouldn't be surprised.
Almost like they're tanking this year.
Wouldn't be surprised if this is a guy that seriously has some big, big problems going. Really out of shape, injury issues coming. It just seems it's there. My screen's gone blank for him. That's how bad it is in the background. But there you go.
Okay. Well, I'm
not going to try and fiddle with it.
Yeah. There might be a pattern here. This guy plays for the Giants.
Okay.
Evan Ingram. Every year, he's tight end 5, 4 or 5. Yeah. 6.
Some people love him, don't they?
He's great. He gets injured every year. He's rubbish. He never returns his value. I mean, in every year he's been in the league. I'm not saying he's not rubbish. He's just not a player. I don't like tight ends anyway, but especially injured tight ends.
I'm going to be honest.
Play for the Giants.
Other than like 2 or 3 tight ends, they are rubbish. I'm sorry, you are. In fantasy circles, I've got no time for you. I'm sorry. I respect you in
I see the upside if you're playing for a premium, because he is a pass catcher. And but they've got some nice players there now.
Can't argue with your list so far, which is annoying, actually. I do agree with you. Evan Ingram, I can't stand it.
They're not all paying for Dallas opposition, to be honest. But, Evan Ingram, he's a tight end. He's always injured.
Doesn't he always go like
paying a high price? He
always goes tight end 5, doesn't he? Tight end 5 or 6 normally every single year.
Yeah.
And I don't get why.
I'm not. That's why he's not on any of my teams.
Yeah.
Totally get it. Maybe he'll come back and he'll blow. But he just can't stay healthy. That guy. So that's why he's on my list. I'm not picking him at that value because he's not value for me if they don't play. So on to your number 3.
Okay, massively controversial third one on this list. I'm going to get slaughtered for this one. Mike Evans for this year. I've got massive problems here because this is Tom Brady, you see. I mean, looking at the mechanics, the way Tom Brady plays and the kind of players that thrive with Tom and the kind of where his arm strength lies right now, I think Mike Evans just doesn't seem the right fit for me. I mean, he will do okay, and I'm not knocking that. There'll be some good games in there for this year, but I could see a real, like last year, a lot of wide receivers failed to deliver on their draft stock. I think Mike Evans is a real candidate. You've got to pay second-round premium for Mike Evans in big leagues, in most leagues, really. And I just won't be paying that price. I just think there's better targets around him that can deliver the points I need.
Let's just look at some facts here. So, can Brady throw deep? Is there a better wide receiver on the roster, or a different one that's going to take a lot of targets?
I think there is.
Have they just added a tight end that's going to take a lot of targets? Probably, Gronk, because they paid fairly big price for him.
And there could be a lot of dump offs to the running backs, and they've kind of thrown in a Keyshawn Vaughn potentially for that role.
They've still got OJ Howard, haven't they, as well? So
yeah, OJ Howard down the seam. So I really got big reservations about Mike Evans for this season. I just feel if you had to put a pencil round someone and you thought could fail to deliver their numbers and you would feel disappointed, it could be him. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's been brilliant. He's been.
You're not saying Brady's not a good player, but
yeah, it's just you have to make good observations to get the best out of your draft value and stock. I mean, the one thing you've taught me over the last 2 years, particularly from yourself, is find the value and then go after it. Yeah, so, I mean, like Mike Evans in the second round isn't value. If Mike Evans fell to the fourth or fifth round, then he's value there because he'll deliver on his numbers. Where he is at the moment, he can't deliver for me, so I'll avoid.
You want people that are going to over-deliver on their numbers.
Absolutely. And I don't want
every round. That's a plan.
I don't mind if somebody's going to give me safe, steady numbers. I'm happy to take it sometimes, depending on what I'm doing with my draft board. But with him, I would be looking for safe, steady numbers, and I don't think they're there.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it is worrying me that I'm not sure because I mean, Winston threw a lot of yards. I mean, he threw a lot of passes, not always to his own team, but he did like to launch the ball. Brady's safer. Will he take those downfield shots to Evans where it's like 50-50?
I can't see it. I mean, you could see the arm strength on every single season has been decreasing. Now, it's only a few yards, but we are talking the NFL. So what happens is, and this is again from experience, is once you know that your arm strength is starting to change, you tend to adapt the way you throw the ball a little. So you won't take those shots as often because if you try and put one deeper, you tend to put more air under it. And it tends to hover a little bit more, and it's up there to be caught. And the corners and safeties can just take a little bit off the route with the chance that you're going to underthrow the ball. I'm not seeing it. So I'm really, it's a big swerve from me for Evans because I really, you can't argue with the GOAT. I can't argue with him. I mean, I can doubt him, but it'll still give you 250, 260 fantasy points every single year just based on his abilities and skills, and maybe more in that offense to shine. So, I can't doubt the GOAT can just keep dumping the ball off and dissect you to death because he's brilliant at it. It's just that Evans will suffer from this.
Okay. All right. Well, I think there's some logic there, definitely. And it is a big worry. I mean, Evans is a good player. Right, my third one. And this is more dynasty, really, but probably in redraft as well, because he just goes too high for my liking, even though he's a decent player. Courtland Sutton from Denver.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's a clear number one. There's no doubt about that. And I quite like Drew Lock as a quarterback, so it's a bit weird. But
he's going very high on ADPs this year.
Yeah, he is. But, he is clear number one. I mean, the number two could be, it could be Judy. I mean, we don't know how good Judy's going to be yet, but he could well be very, very good and surpass Sutton as the number one in time. Especially, that worries me in Dynasty.
A lot of weapons, though. So a lot of weapons.
In redraft, I just think he goes too high for my liking. I don't like Denver as a team that much. I mean, they're getting better, but
there are other wide receivers around him that I much prefer in terms of their ADP. So I could totally agree with you.
And that's the whole point. I'm not saying I don't like Courtland Sutton, and if it was the right price, I would sort of pay.
Yeah, I think if it was slightly cheaper, I'd be more happy. And I do agree with you. At the moment, the way he's going, I totally see this. It's a no from me.
You're almost paying. You're almost paying for his ceiling already. I can't see him being a massive scorer. I could see him doing all right.
You know what I'm saying here is absolutely true because I've shared with you as well. There's another thing that's quite interesting here because you challenged me to put 5 names down on the list, and you've seen my draft list. My draft list don't even contain players like Christian McCaffrey because I won't be touching them. And as much as that sounds really weird, it's just based on I've got to follow through on what I believe, and I've got to stick to my principles on the players. Now, I'm not saying I won't touch a player if they come to a certain value. That would be crazy. If I'm sitting on a draft board, I'm picking fourth, and Christian McCaffrey's still there. It's a bit silly not to take him, obviously. But I'm kind of being honest. There's nothing in this that you wouldn't know. It's what I'm saying to you. Is there, Al? There's nothing on this that I've not backed up with what I'm doing myself.
No, and that's fair enough. I mean, it's getting those reasons why you don't like a player because obviously.
Yeah. Oh,
lost
sorry
you
about
there.
that. Has it come back on? Yeah,
you bet.
Just for a moment. Yeah.
Okay, so let's have your fourth player.
Well, again, controversial. There's going to be a lot of debate, but I think the price. You see, the thing is, the premium. The price is still very, very high. It hasn't adjusted for what happened last year. It's Juju Smith-Schuster is going very, very high. Ben's coming off a massive injury. The team is still in flux. There's a lot of issues there within the team. You're paying a very, very high price for Juju Smith-Schuster, particularly in redraft. That's worrying me because, yes, we saw a brilliant 2 years ago, Juju Smith-Schuster. No doubt, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Capable of, the sky's the limit. I'm not debating the guy has an amazing possibility. It's just, we didn't see it last year. And yes, that's down to quarterback issues. We know that. Ben's coming back. But Ben's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed he's back. We don't know.
No, it was his elbow, wasn't it? His elbow went, so...
Yeah, we don't know. And again, this could be a guy that you take. The premium is so supremely high, particularly in redraft for this guy. Now, I understand the potential. Don't get me wrong. I totally see what people are saying. Look, the guy's got capability. We can say that about a lot of players, but we have to temper that with the reality. And I think Ben is much, much older, coming off a serious elbow injury. I don't like the team's been in flux a couple of seasons. They've really worried me. They've been actually fairly easy to pick out bust from. We've done it very well for a few years. And Juju worries me. And I'm afraid I find there are better wide receivers around his value that I would much prefer and that I feel more confident around than I do with him.
The thing we do in a list like this, a lot of these are actually big name players that could do really, really well. So it could come back and haunt you. But, that's the idea.
But that's okay. But
that's another similar one across the same sort of vein. Clear wide receiver one of his team. Yep. Well, possibly. But I just don't like the team. I don't like the team. It all revolves around Christian McCaffrey. This is DJ Moore. McCaffrey's plan A, plan B. And you got Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, he's steady, but he's not going to throw for 5,000 yards. They got Robbie Anderson now. I mean, he might help by stretching the field, but, he could be the wide receiver one there. He's a very talented player.
But you're highlighting brilliantly, actually, and I'm glad you brought up DJ Moore. Exactly some of the reasons why
he goes too high for me. I just can't.
I think when you had Cam Newton in the backfield, right? And I know that last year Christian McCaffrey, it wasn't an issue. He still performed. I'm not debating that. And DJ Moore still played very well, really. But the problem, I totally agree with you, because I think the problem this year is the trigger man behind the scenes. It's going to become more and more obvious what teams have got to do. And I think every year, you can never say for certain the teams won't. Every year teams adapt. I mean, they saw how to try and cope with a Lamar Jackson. It was a corral system. I'm not saying that's going to work because the way Baltimore are is really difficult to defend. But I wouldn't say, like you've just highlighted, I wouldn't say that these guys are hard to defend now. I think they're becoming very one-dimensional. So DJ Moore could really suffer. So I get your pick here, totally.
He'll have a decent year, but it'll be not an outstanding year. And for that price, will he outscore the position he's going? I don't think he will. He might score around that, and he's a good player, but I'd just rather take someone that's got a bigger upside. I personally think has got a bigger upside. I don't like the team. Robbie Anderson's there. Curtis Samuel's there. He's clear number one, but it's just not a team I really want to. I mean, apart from McCaffrey, I would pick him, but
he'll have opportunity. But
I won't touch any of the other ones.
No, I get that.
Right, your fifth and final selection. So.
Well, fifth and final one is, again, based on logic. It's a quarterback. This is Deshaun Watson, arguably a top 5 quarterback for every single season the last few years. It's just this year, particularly this year, more than any other year, it's a no from me because the red flags are out. One of the most sacked quarterbacks last year, massive red flags around potential injury here. If he gets another major injury, it could be career-ending. They haven't done anything to protect him. oh my God, Houston are in tank mode. I am seriously worried about this guy for this season.
They made some strange
oh my
off-season
God
decisions, didn't they?
I think this guy massively is the unfortunate side effect of their decision-making process. I mean, I just feel they're hanging him out to dry. I mean, if I'm him, I'm kind of thinking, is this it for me? You know, I'd be really worried about my own, health here. And
the thing about him is the reason why he was sacked a lot, and I saw him live, and he continually did this. He just held on the ball, onto the ball so long, waiting for people, because he's looking for the deep shot to Fuller or, Stills, or I suppose it'll be Brandon Cooks this year as well. And he needs that time for him to get down the field, and he can pick them out, but he just didn't get that time. They couldn't protect him. I mean, every time the O-line was awful time after time.
I think it's got so much worse for him. I mean, I really do. I don't honestly know what they are doing as a team. They've traded away his best, his outlet valve. You've got rid of the player that he was most comfortable throwing the ball to. There's a big red flag. He was very heavily sacked last year. Another big red flag. Your team has taken away some pieces that they really needed to rebuild.
But they got Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks. Right?
That's not the same. It's just not the same.
They're not as good as what?
It's just not the same. As much as Brandon Cooks has Brandon Cooks is real value because Brandon Cooks isn't going high on draft boards. So actually, his value is great because you're not expecting anything other than the standard kind of Brandon Cooks kind of year. And he'll probably deliver on that.
He's a 4th or 5th round player, isn't he, Brandon Cooks?
And you're very happy to get him because you think at that value, preach value. At that value, Brandon Cooks, great value. The only possible player they've got that's going to get peppered the ball as much as DeAndre Hopkins. I can't dispute how good that is, but the problem is Deshaun Watson has this red flag hanging over him. I can't lie about this. I've got to be honest and say, look, I can't touch him. I cannot take this guy, particularly in redraft. I have huge reservations for him staying upright, and we saw quarterbacks going down very heavily last year. Will we see that again this year? Quite possibly, because they're going to be heavily affected by OTAs. A lot of rookies coming in are going to miss a lot of camp preparation. We've got unfit players coming back, a lot of them. I mean, if these trainers are telling us a lot of players are out of shape, that's just embarrassing as a professional. That's embarrassing.
They get paid enough, don't they? They get paid enough. They should be,
I'd want to come in every single season. I want people to think, wow, I want people to know I've been training hard because that's the whole point. I'm sick of I'm not saying he's not training hard, Deshaun Watson, far from it. I'm just saying that he could be affected by other people not bothering, is what I'm saying here, and that could have even more bigger impacts. And, one of the areas, I don't mean to be horrible when I say this, but it's a small link, right? So it's something I'm really thinking about this year. Offensive lines and defensive lines aren't built on high workouts. They're built on huge eat-outs, right? And you need the workouts to bring the player back into line. A lot of these guys are sat there munching in the off season. Probably they can be some of the.
I can relate.
I'm not being horrible, but they can be some of, not all, because I wouldn't want to say that. But there's a lot of them. They'll be the first to tell you they like to go for a drink. They like to party. The offensive line, the defensive line, they're a real.
They like to eat meat as well.
They like to eat their meat, and you'll often hear, when they go out to a diner, the quarterback will pay, and it's often a lot of money gets exchanged, several $1,000s because of the amount these boys eat. This has got huge ramifications for quarterbacks, right? If your line is out of shape, there's issues in the line more than ever, and you're that split second off timing, God dear, there's going to be some quarterbacks going down. I'm telling you, this is a year like we've never seen. So anybody that says that anything we're talking about here, isn't relevant.
As we speak, they are sort of reopening their facilities, so people should be getting back, and
But they should have already been.
Yeah, well, they should
since,
be.
Since before, and we are hearing. I'm being serious. The first time I've ever heard this. Trainers at the very highest level training some of the elite. We're not talking peripheral players. Elite players saying, "I've had these players feigning on me." Wow, that, and these are workout. These are minor workouts.
Fined for over because in like English football, if people come back to pre-season and they're out of shape, they get fined. If they're over,
it's very difficult.
That happen in America.
Yes,
it's not for their own line, isn't it? Because they've got to be big.
Yeah, I do apologise because I'm down to only a few percent, so I apologise. We've just got enough time to finish the video, but
Well, I've got one more player, so let's.
Oh, well, we'll come to your player, but I'm just going to say,
go on, yeah.
A final point on this, very final point, is that, yes, they will get fined, but the thing is in those contracts there are provisos, and often the provisos will talk about facilities being open and various trainers being available. That just hasn't been the case. So there may not be a straight cut as just finding players for who are out of weight. So I just think we've got to be honest and take a step back. This is going to be a very different year than we used to in the NFL. The reason we love the NFL is often because when you compare it to college or you compare it to anything else, the failed XFL, for example, very interesting league, some nice ideas, but it isn't the NFL. These players are the elite of the elite of the elite, except this year where we might see some real players like really out of sorts for the first 6 to 8 to 9 weeks of the season, half the season, before they really pick back up gear or get back into football fitness. It is going to be impacted by a shortened off-season for sure.
Well, what we'll do is try and bring a view as sort of a list of, concerning things we've heard, closer to the season, because now not so important, but when we get to like pre-season or, just before the season, then if people are still out of shape or struggling or behind, their schedule, because they're going to be holdouts and things like that as well, then players always come a bit out of shape, don't they?
Yeah.
For the first few weeks.
You would expect as well, just so it's clear, because again,
also, how do you think not having a crowd is going to affect certain teams? Because
it makes
in the German football, all the away teams winning.
Yeah, it makes a difference. I remember from my own playing days that the things that I thrived on was people who said, "Who the hell's that skinny little shitbag back there? He ain't going to be able to throw the ball on us." Yeah, love that. Give me that all day long. Tell me I'm no good. I'll definitely burn you alive. Don't worry, a ball's coming over that way later on, just so you can watch it. That's a guarantee. I can tell. And I used to go over there and point at them as well, going, "That was for you. That. Thanks for the comment earlier." And at the end, I thrived on that. So it does make a difference to some players. Some players actually probably enjoy not having the crowd there, funny enough.
Teams like Seattle who really feed off the 12th man. And a lot of teams
home field advantage will be gone. Those kind of things will matter.
The noise on third down, you're going to lose that. Okay, let's move on to the fifth player.
Yeah.
I was stuck between two here, but I'm going to go for... he nearly won me over last year, but Allen Robinson. And I'll tell you why. He's a top 10 wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver.
Very interesting, because
I don't like Chicago this year. I have a feeling they're going to go run heavy, so he's going to get less opportunities. I think Anthony Miller's a decent player, and he's coming through, and he was really big last 5 games of last season.
He was, yeah.
Robinson's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like investing high-value stock in a player on a poor team that's changing, that said they're going to go to a heavy run ethos. And that puts me off a little bit. So they're the reasons I'm avoiding him. He nearly won me over last year. He was very, very good. He's a very good player.
I do quite like him, but I do agree. I think in normal leagues his price
people
is
just
too
like
high.
him more than I do. That's what it boils down to. People.
I often find at the point that I might consider a player like him, he's gone anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's
often what happens.
I prefer other targets.
Yeah, I do like him, and I certainly will look at him a little bit more this year. But it has to be at the right price. Always has to be at the right price.
A few of these, like Cortland Sutton, he kind of won me over a bit. Allen Robinson, but people just like them more than I do, and that's why I never end up with them on my teams, and that's what this video is all about.
Yeah,
it's not saying those players are bad. It's just that
Well, I think I think all of them highlight some things you have to consider, and I'm not saying put you off anybody you want to take them. No one's gonna say don't take McCaffrey at 1, of course, but I just am concerned. And like all these things on this list that me and Al have given you, I think there's some real valid points, and some of them, whether you dismiss one or two, there's quite a few gold nuggets in this that you'd have to say, yeah, that's a valid point, and that's the whole point of it.
Well, the thing is, we've tried to give the thing is, we tried to give our reasons of why we don't like them, or why we, it's not that we don't like them in cases. The value's not there for me. Well, I don't see them outscoring the point that they're going to give you. So
I can genuinely see this season, right? I mean, I'm not denying there are a lot. It's an amazing caliber of wide receivers coming into the NFL. There really is a lot of really good players, some that we probably haven't even talked about, who will come on and do really great things.
The depth is brilliant for wide receivers.
But the issue is that with a lot of these rookies, they don't have NFL experience. They haven't had the off-season they're going to need. Training camps are going to be a lot less. Coaches are there's going to be more injuries that are going to come out than ever before. And that also includes, before people think about it, oh, that's why you wait till you draft late. Absolutely doesn't make any difference, because they'll still come when the season starts, more than you ever thought possible. This is a big year for injuries. It's a big one, and it's going to throw some real wobbles into your fantasy seasons, the like of which we haven't seen. So this is going to be a fascinating ride.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, let's hope it's on. And,
it will be.
We all need football. Things seem to be trending the right way. They're opening facilities. They've done the draft.
Yeah, it's coming back.
They're kind of doing private workouts. I saw Antonio Brown doing a workout the other day. What he had a Raiders shirt and Steelers bottoms, which was interesting.
Well,
that's Antonio Brown for you, but he looked in shape. Well, he was catching passes. Hopefully, his head's back in the game.
I think he's left his feet in a cryogenic freezer and his brain somewhere else in a hot air balloon. I think
that. Yeah,
I wish him well. I hope he does come back with some kind of mental strength.
He's a good player. You don't want to see him doing all these awful things and saying awful things. No. You want him doing what he's good at.
I'd like to see it. I hope he gets one more chance and can actually live up to what he's good at.
He can turn it around. Let's hope so. That's what we want to see.
There's still one chance left, I think, for him, but we'll have to wait and see what it is.
So Josh Gordon's Easter now. We won't talk about Josh Gordon. He's had 40.
He's looking for reinstatement.
I know. He spends all his life looking for reinstatement. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, I guess you're going to have, some comments. I mean, we'd like to know. Give us 5 players you don't like.
Throw them on the list. If you've got someone
you don't like, but you never own, you just can't give. Because, we've all got our favourites. We've all got people we avoid. And it's interesting to see what other people do, because I'd really be interested to see that in the comments. And we'll respond to them all. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And thank you so much for watching.
And we'll see you next time.